Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So I want to talk about this situation that happened in Grand Rapids, Michigan, where this young black man by the name of Patrick Lyoya was shot and killed by Grand Rapids police. The police stopped him because his vehicle was improperly registered. When they pull him over, before the police get out of the car, he proceeds to get out of the car, and the police tell him to get back into the car. He does not get back into the car. The officer asks him for his driver's license, and at first, he's looking into the vehicle. Patrick Lyoya is looking into the vehicle, and it seems as if he's about to get his license, but then he proceeds to close the door to the vehicle and then runs away from the vehicle. And then the officer runs after him. The officer pulls out his taser and tries to fire it at him, but it ends up firing into the ground because Patrick is actually holding the taser. They run a little bit further. There's a struggle at one point. It appears that Patrick has his hand on the taser. There's a struggle over the taser. The police officer actually pins him down to the ground. The police officer is actually on his back. And it appears like they were still struggling over the taser with the other hand. This police officer proceeds to pull out his gun and then put his gun directly in the back of this young man's head and then fires it twice. Well, I think it was twice or once, but he fires his gun and he kills this brother right on the spot. Now, this incident was videoed. You had the dash camera, you had a security camera as well that videotaped this incident. And then you also had somebody, I think it was the passenger, who captured video as well. I will post a link to an article from the Detroit News, which shows the full videos, shows each of the three videos in one video. And I will also post the YouTube video that shows one of the videos as well. So you could all see this for yourself. Now, what I want to do is just take my time and just analyze this and tell you what I think about this situation. First of all, it is just crazy that somebody ends up dead over a simple charge of improperly registered vehicle. That type of minor type of offense should not result in somebody being shot and killed. I mean, the fact that it could escalate to that degree is just outrageous to me. Watching this police officer and how he engaged this man, like, it seems as if this officer was poorly trained. He should have called for backup. There was no need for him to chase this man under the circumstances. He was alone, so he shouldn't have struggled with this man. He should have simply called for backup. But instead, we have a young man dead, a young man whose family is from the Congo. This young man came to America in search of a better life, came to America in search of safety and security. From a war-torn country of the Congo, but he comes to America and he loses his life. He's fleeing for his safety, and he finds out that the very people that are supposed to make him safe or to keep him safe are the people that took this young brother's life. And it's just so unfortunate. This brother did not have to die. This officer literally shot this brother execution style. That's what happened here. He had the gun at point blank range and literally blew this brother's brains out on camera. And right now, as far as I know, this officer has not been charged with anything. And for a while, they were actually refusing to release this videotape. This incident happened on April 4th. And here we are all these days later, they finally released the videotape because they knew it was very damaging. It's a horrible videotape. And the first thing that the police are going to do is they're going to try to justify this. That the defense attorney for this officer. They're going to try to justify this. They're going to try to explain it away. They're going to say that he feared for his safety because the young brother struggled with him over the taser. He's going to say that he feared for his safety, and that's going to be used as a basis for saying that this officer acted in a reasonable fashion, that this officer's actions were justified. Those are the arguments that are going to be raised. And it just makes me think about a couple of things, just some basic information that all Black people need to know when encountering these police. These police are looking for an excuse to kill Black people. That's what they're doing. They're coming up with a way to rationalize taking Black lives. And before I go any further, I'll just say this. This is a prime example of why people have the slogan Black Lives Matter, because in America, Black lives don't mean anything. This brother's life didn't mean anything to this officer. That officer did not have to execute that brother. That officer did not have to lynch that brother. That officer did not have to play the role of judge, jury, and executioner. Driving around with an improper vehicle registration should not be a death sentence. And if that person, if Patrick Lyoya was a white young man, I doubt that this officer would have shot that brother in the back of his head if he was white. But this is what we face. So yeah, they're going to try to justify this. And what I'm going to say is this, there are things that Black people need to know when dealing with these police. Number one, don't run from these police. Number two, don't argue with these police. Number three, don't struggle with these police. Don't resist arrest. Because all of you are doing is inviting excuses for your own execution at the hands of these pigs. Because that's what they're looking for, an excuse. Don't give them one. It's better to leave alive than to leave dead. It's better to face a minor charge of driving around with an improperly registered vehicle than to end up with a virtual death sentence over some minor offense. So, that would be my advice to brothers and sisters. Don't resist these police. Don't run from these police. Don't fight with these police. And definitely don't reach for their taser or any of their weapons, because immediately they're going to say that they were justified in killing you. And we know that we live in a society, a criminal justice system that has a lot of deference for these police. They are rarely convicted of police brutality. They're rarely even charged for these incidents of police brutality. But I hope that there are charges in this situation. I hope that that officer is held accountable. How many young Black men and women must die at the hands of these police before things finally change? This is something that Black people have been talking about forever, this issue of police brutality. They were talking about it from the very inception of the police. I mean, we look back to the 60s. You had the Black Panthers fighting against police brutality. You had the civil rights workers, nonviolent workers who were victims of police brutality. And here we are today in 2022, and we're still facing this very same problem of police brutality. And enough is enough. It is time for us to stand up against these police. It is time for these legislators to pass the kind of reforms that we need to see. There is no reason why the George Floyd Justice Act hasn't been passed in Congress. That should have been passed. That should be a top priority for any candidate that wants the Black vote. That law needs to be passed into law. There's a need for that. And we need to push for that. We need to be, anytime these politicians come to us about this, come to us seeking our votes, come to our churches or our mosques trying to win over votes and pretend to be interested. We need to be all up in their face, asking them about police reform, asking what are they going to do to pass the George Floyd Act, asking them what are they going to do on the local level to pass the necessary reforms that we need to see. We need to be up in their face about that anytime they come to us, up in their face about reparations as well. Because this situation is ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous that all of these young black people are killed by these police year after year, day after day, and no action is taken. So, yeah, it's just crazy. And another thing that I wanted to say is, you know, and this can be summed up, my advice to young black people can be summed up in one little phrase: it's better to comply than to die. So again, you know, don't give these police any kind of justification to take your life. The other thing is this whole situation, you know, again, I mentioned that this brother came from the Congo, fleeing, war in that area. And, you know, we see a lot of tension between African immigrants and African Americans online. You know, you hear it a lot online. You got, you know, these people that fan the flames of division among black people, fan the flames of hatred among black people, encouraging African Americans to, you know, have disdain towards immigrants or indifferent towards African immigrants, you know, basically the black version of Trumpism. And a lot of times it is masquerading under some desire for reparations. So you have that. And then you also have some immigrants that come to this country and they think that they are better than African Americans. They think that African Americans are lazy, are trifling, are criminals, and all that kind of stuff. And some of them have used the term akata to refer to African Americans. So you have this division among black people. We need to be united. Now is not the time for division. Now is not the time for tribalism, because at the end of the day, these police don't make those distinctions. When they see black, they see nigger in their mind. And they treat us all accordingly. They don't make those distinctions when they pull you over. They don't say you have a pass because you're an immigrant. They don't say that we're not going to harass you or racially profile you because you're an immigrant, or to give you some kind of pass. We're going to treat you just like we treat the rest of those niggas. That's the mindset of these police. So immigrant brothers and sisters, don't think that you're better than your African American brothers and sisters. And again, to the people that promote this idea that somehow these immigrants have certain privileges that African Americans don't have, when they stopped that brother, he didn't have no privileges that we don't have. They saw him just like they see you, just like they see us. They saw him as another nigga whose life isn't worth a damn. We've seen it with even accomplished black people who are immigrants. We saw that even though Obama went to Harvard Law School, even though he was the president of Law Review, even though he was some distinguished author and a senator before he became president, when he was elected, they treated him like the N-word. When he was elected, they viewed his family as a family of monkeys. They viewed him as a witch doctor, as a terrorist. They hated that brother because of the color of his skin. They didn't care nothing about him being biracial. They didn't care nothing about his father being some immigrant from Kenya. They saw a nigger. And that's how they are with most black people. Even the example of the judge, Ketanji Brown Jackson, the way some of those senators talk to her, the way some of those news people on Fox News question her credentials. basically they viewed her as a nigger, despite all her accomplishments, despite the fact that she's from a family of immigrants from Jamaica. They still viewed her as a nigger. So let's end these divisions and let's unite to fight against police brutality. It is time for a black militia to deal with these police. It is time for black people to take up arms to defend our community. And there's nothing radical about that. That's common sense. That's logical. Every nation on this planet has a military to defend their interests, to defend their people, to defend their communities, to defend their families. And it's about time for black people to have their own. It's about time for us to defend ourselves. Justice for Patrick Lyoya.